Members of the Meghalaya Bank Employees Association on Tuesday evening had gathered to protest against the central government's decision to privatize public sector banks across the country. The Deputy General Secretary, SBI Officers Association Shillong Module, Devadeep Dasgupta, while speaking to reporters, said that the move by the central government on privatization of banks will cause the closure of branches in rural and semi-urban areas and will also stop the flow of credit, especially to poor and marginalized families in the state.
Of various financial inclusion schemes that I'm sure that each and every public sector bank has worked heart and soul in opening Jan-Dhan accounts. So, and not to mention, around 76% of the public sector banks have opened branches in rural areas.
This is just to protest against the government's move to privatize nationalized banks. You must have heard or read in the papers that there is a definite calculated move to privatize national banks and give them into private hands. A few months ago, or rather a few weeks ago, a report came out in newspapers that all public sector banks will be privatized in the country except for State Bank of India. And that State Bank of India also, if the government feels at a later date that State Bank of India should also be privatized, then State Bank of India can also be privatized. Our fight is against the government's policy of selling public assets, of selling the family silver and giving it onto private hands. When all public sector banks are making profit, when they are all working well, and we all know that after the 1969 nationalization of banks, how these banks have penetrated into every strata of society. Cheap loans are available. In fact, the entire agricultural development of this country, you talk about the green revolution, you talk about the white revolution, you talk about industrialization, has all happened due to cheap credit being available to farmers, to the artisans, to the people who are in the dairy business, to everybody. Cheap credit, cheap loan from the banks have gone into the development of this country, and it is hardly any private banks who have come forward and pitched in with any development for this country. The government does not come out with a stand that we are withdrawing this entire process or this entire plan of privatizing public sector banks. We will continue because it is a fight for my survival, for the survival of the country, for the survival of my family. So it will definitely continue.